And good evening, everyone. Another episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies open mic session. This is a special session to gather everyone together that has been the part of open mic and Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies since the beginning of January of 2022. So welcome everyone to tonight's episode. We have some a special announcement that we will be going over. But I just wanted to welcome everyone this evening. And it's Old Lang Syne because it's a pre-New Year's Eve celebration of bringing us all together.
I was thinking you should have sang, or you should have done that song. What are you doing, New Year's?
What are you doing on New Year's Eve?
This just exemplifies that I really have no grasp on what Christmas music is, right? Because of my stance on Christmas.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, he's a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah. You know, it's been a year, right? It's definitely been a year of a lot of activity going on with different events around the world and within Canada. I'm just so excited to. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it feels like a year and a half.
Oh, it definitely has. It's and we've had some really great moments. I mean, breaking with Brent and open mic sessions and the guests who have had amazing guests who have had on here this year. Definitely, I mean, some technical glitches too, which I'll be getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff regarding some of that. But not too much detail. But I mean, more just touching base on it and the reasons why. There's going to be some things happening going forward. I mean, some things that really have already happened and they keep going the way it's going anyway. So, and I'll kind of get into that. And some people are like, "Huh, what's he talking about?" And that's kind of where I'm going. Where I'm going, kind of with this conversation is. I see that Joseph has joined in, and great, that's fantastic.
Oh, I'm here, Brent.
Oh yes, yeah, that's great, Joseph. Well, thanks for coming in. And I was just doing some intro.
Do you have your eggnog, Joseph? Do you have your eggnog?
Yeah.
Yeah, eggnog. Ugh, I don't know how people can drink that stuff.
Me either.
But then again, Brent, I don't drink alcohol. I've been sober for 6 years now. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
well, you can drink it plain though too.
Yeah, I just drink it straight up usually, but this time around, I just kind of give it a little bit of a kick, booster. Yeah, in general, myself, I have a little bit of wine the odd time. If you ask Sonia's mom, well, she'd say, "Well, what's wrong with you, with both of you? Geez, you still got a bottle of wine still sitting in the fridge for like 4 months, 5 months." It's like, well, yeah, well, But I picked up a little bit of rum with eggnog just for the year, to celebrate it. And
sorry, I was gonna say I average about 2 drinks a year too, so I don't drink a lot either.
Yeah, and I went back to the store because we had to go to the grocery store today, and went to Walmart, and I was just curious to see if there was any eggnog in the coolers. Nope, none in there at all. We were at the superstore yesterday, and nope, they don't have any either. So it just flew off the shelf this year. I don't know why so fast, and it was hard to find too. So I'm gonna start off here, Joseph. Like I know you probably don't really know what's going on. Tonight's a special segment. As everyone knows, Neil is the editor-producer of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies, and Evo Flightless Birdie is my secretary. A lot of work gets done behind the scenes, and a lot of work. And I want to, first of all, before I continue on, I want to congratulate Neil and Evo Flightless Birdie for all the dedicated work that you guys do. That you guys make this segment possible. Like both are just so amazing. So hands off to both of you on that. I know I've said it before, but I just want to say it again because because it has to be said. Yeah, I mean, and like all the shows, they all go through YouTube. And I know, Joseph, you're very familiar with YouTube.
Yeah, I think that you've had a very successful year, Brent. I mean, you have brought people to this show that are elected officials or representatives of organizations who don't even understand the struggles that people with disabilities have gone through Canada through this pandemic and afterwards. And you're bringing to light to some of these people the social inequalities that there are, and letting them be a voice for us, like Mike Maurice, who has gone before the legislature and brought up the very points that we've discussed in this room. And I think that without you, a lot of the people in this room would not have had the social support network that they have this year. And so we thank you for that, Brent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you on that, Joseph, and yes, and
And
that.
we've also provided the portal, Brent, where many of them got to pop in and hear the struggles. You know, it wasn't just Mike Maurice, right? Like there were definitely others, and the conversations that have happened have helped people in other industries as well, right? Because it's not just politicians, but also reporters and.
Oh yeah, like I've had reporters. I've had Mr. Wheeler. I used to call him Mr. Wheeler, right? I said, well, who do I call you? Like now, so just call me the Wheeler. I said, okay. And so he told me his stories about about mobility issues, and I mean, I learned a lot. I still am learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from people with different branches of advocacy. People about straws. I mean, Laura Lee. I mean, wow, like the straw segment, and
Yeah.
that really it opened my eyes to a lot of things too. And
Yeah.
like,
It's all the lived experience, right? I mean,
yeah,
we've shared a lot, like together as a group, about that, and really brought all that to light. So
yeah.
it's great.
And jumping through definitely some technical problems that we've been having ongoing. Yeah, it's definitely been a good year, though, in general. Like definitely with the Twitter space, and it's brought us all together for a common purpose. And so what I'm gonna say here, I just want everyone to listen very carefully. So yeah, considering the current state of Twitter, I want to put a focus back on the lived experience, okay, and having a conversation with the guest, and like the guest is the show, you guys, and that's kind of where it's always been, and that's where it's really started from the beginning. It was always through YouTube, and so really like that kind of goes back to how the show started, right? It was always just at the beginning with YouTube, and I've used Twitter space as the connection to bring people together into this space, but for it to be broadcasted through YouTube, through Neil's channel, through his YouTube channel. So just going forward, there's no easy way of saying this, and I hope that I apologize if anyone's going to be hurt. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but we will no longer be using Twitter Space anymore going forward. We can still stay in touch though, and definitely talk about important topics here on Twitter. And I encourage everyone, each and every one of you, to direct message me. Okay. Like the YouTube is still going to be going. Neil's channel is still going to be going. Nothing's changing. Like we're going to be broadcasting shows going forward through live streaming, and in some cases, it may not always be live streaming, but we're going to be using Skype, and that's what we're going to be launching. That way, I can have guests on there. I can also have like guest speakers. I can also even have some of you guys join me as some of my co-hosts. So that's really exciting too. So I did want you guys to know that you guys are still part of this. Like you are part of how this group has developed, and I want to thank each and every one of you for that too, because that's how we've become so successful in branching off with advocacy and lived experience. And that's how it's always been. Like it's always been through YouTube, and and it's just the opportunity is there for us to grow even more, and just the Twitter Spaces have had they call it best before date.
Yeah,
You know,
their
and
day in the sun, right?
yeah, yeah, and
It's had its day
yeah,
in the sun.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
and I just wanted to help you explain the technical part of it. The reason behind it, it wasn't just a snap decision on our part. Like we really thought of different things. We talked about maybe Zoom and other platforms, but there's been a lot of issues with Twitter, a lot of technical issues too, and we've been test running a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and Skype is one of those things that Skype is very, very solid audio quality, very solid video quality. If the guest wants to share themselves on video, they can. If they don't have to. I can still have all the spots will still be all put on YouTube as normal, so they can just be basically an audio file with that one picture if people just want a picture, or we can broadcast full video. They can be live streamed, so that if they're live streamed too, we'll be encouraging full audience participation in the chat. Like you have a full ongoing live chat during the segments. And also too, I've heard recently that those community pages will be opening up to even the smaller channels like myself. You'll get community pages, but it's kind of like Facebook, that you can basically put little announcements, or just little announcements on YouTube, like just pictures that will say, "Hey, tune in to tonight's live stream," or whatever, like that kind of thing. YouTube is going to be opening it up to smaller YouTubers like myself, that capability. Like in theory, there's still going to be lots and lots and lots of opportunity for audience participation, and as Brent said as well, we'll still be involving co-hosts. Like there might be some times where Brent's going to want one or two co-hosts, like whoever, Greg or Patricia can be two co-hosts, and then we'll have like two co-hosts and one guest, or whatever, and whatever the situation is.
If you guys have ever thought about participating with Slack, but you're worried about the cost is only for the hosting of the server for it.
Right, Joseph.
It's not for the user.
Oh, no, exactly, Joseph. But we have thoroughly looked at that. But you've brought it up again. We'll note it, and give it a closer look, right?
If you guys, like I use Slack for my business at work, and I will tell you it's a very good tool. It would be a place where you guys would be able to do a show where up to 50 people could participate by either voice or video. You could also do a video chat as well. And you can host what's called huddles in there, and you all get to be able to talk. I'm pretty sure you can still record everything, Neil.
That's another thing, Joseph, is, I'll let Brent speak. I'll let Brent speak about this too. But like again, we've talked about this at length behind the scenes, and one of the things that Brent came to me about initially, like again, this was brought on as a Brent decision. Really, it's not just me talking. It's not Evil Flight Sporty. It's basically something that Brent came forward with to me about, and he basically we just want to return it. Like it's Brent's baby, right? It's always been Brent's baby, and he wants to return it back to sort of a talk show format, either kind of a talk show format or a podcast format, And we even talked about maybe somewhere down the line making it sort of a call-in show, and that could happen actually. Like, say for example, we can still have the Skype as the backbone of the callers, but then you could also have some other app that would be driving the call-in portion. I mean, we'd have to talk about that, but there could be another supportive app that would allow people not to just call you randomly on your home phone, but through some sort of VoIP service or similar to Skype, where they can just call in, and we can take calls on the air like they do on radio.
On the radio, yeah, kind of like a call queue where your next call, you're in queue number 4.
Yeah, and so we've talked about all those types of things too, and I mean, there's lots of things we have to iron out, but I think the bottom line is that, you know, Brent, we've all talked about it, is that we want to return the show to kind of like a talk show format where we're still involving a lot of the audience participation and involving a lot of co-hosts if need be. You know, so it'll definitely have a different flavor, because I think in some ways I can understand people will say, well, it's not as immediate as, it's not kind of as immediate gratification maybe as Twitter Spaces has allowed, because I mean, you have all these people that can kind of talk at once, you know. So in that way, the YouTube delivery thing will be a bit different. But in another way, like we can expand out and sort of turn it into a call-in kind of a show too. So it will still give lots of opportunity for people to give us feedback and to call in and you know, and participate on the show.
Yeah, it would be more of a reduced down amount of people per call in, but at the same time, it's basically the focus is on the guest, and that's where it's always been, like the guest, meaning like, say I was to have you as a special segment, Joseph, or I had you calling in, or, you know, video or whatever it is, right? And then you'd be like, okay, and so today I have Joseph on. We're talking about basic income and the benefits of basic income, or, you know, whoever I might have on, and I may have you know, Neil or Evo Flightless Birdie as the co-host, or I might have both of them on, or Neil could be behind the scenes doing you know, technical stuff, or vice versa, or both. There's so many options, and yeah, it's really exciting actually. Broadening, going forward with it, and taking you know, all you guys forward with it, and using the tools to, like Neil mentioned, maybe eventually one of my dreams, to be honest, like, and Neil touched base on this already, is, yeah, I'd like to have it as a talk show down the road. That is one of the avenues that I would love to do, because and having it focused on lived experience, and that's what the theme would be about, and having guests echo that, calling in and listening to lived experience stories, and having callers call in, and of course they would have to be, you know, censored a little bit, you know, lived experience and different things, but that's what they do on the radio too. So that's kind of the long-term game. How we get there is where we are now, and what we're doing is continuing on the journey. I will definitely be having different little gatherings from time to time of having a lot of the, you know, guests and different people who come on here, like yourself, Joseph, and Jesui, and you know, different ones, and Dave. Yeah, like, you know, having you come on, is, but not too many all at once, but having a little session gathering, get together, and yeah, that will be advertised too. It's not a full session of, you know, like lots of people, like as with a traditional Twitter space, but more of a condensed one.
Yeah, and what I was going to mention too is there's so much content already on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, and just to highlight specifically your Breaking with Brent segments, I always call them the Rick Mercer experience, right? Because the kind of
Yep.
the Rick Mercer kind of vibe to them.
Oh, they're fantastic.
But they're great, and I just wish like more and more people would see them. But I don't have as many subscribers. But if everybody would hop on and subscribe, like all these people would see all this great content that you're doing with these Breaking with Brents, you know.
Sonya's filming in those creates so much, like, there's so much of Sonya hidden in those Breaking Brents too. I mean, I just see so much of Sonya's support for you in those.
Oh yeah, and like I was telling you, that last segment you did, and that first person cam of you going across the road, and then the guys right in front of you like slipping on the ice there, was hilarious. Like, it was such understated comedy. It was just It was just priceless, right? And like I said, I mean, it's only got 50 views and it deserves like at least 500, like minimum.
Especially the part with the part with the puddle. I just put my foot. I'm like, whoa, hang on there.
And I just feel bad for anybody that hasn't watched it yet. It's like, what are you doing? Like, everybody needs to tune in and watch that one.
And and I want to put a a good thumb up to Sonia for all the work she does with the camera behind the scenes. Right, she does a lot of the footage, different angles. She'll say, "Oh, I'll stand on this angle because get a better shot," and then sometimes I'll just grab it and do the filming like straight out, right? And if there's something, and she'll say, "Oh, what are you looking at?" And I go, so I said, "Oh, hang on," and so I just kind of put my finger up, saying, "Yeah, like 1, 2, 3, I'm recording." Boom, and she knows that. Okay, yeah. And then, if I don't get the right camera view, then she'll kind of continue on, or we'll clip it and use that part. And so it's awesome. Like, we work as a good team to put together all these Breaking with Brent segments. I love doing them. They're fun because you just never know the reaction I'll get. And some of these people, this one lady, she was walking with her kid when there was a snowbank, and yeah, she wanted to be part of it. And she's like, "Yeah, do you mind if my kid just walks by?" And I said, "Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic." And so her kid wanted to be in there, so I'm like, yeah. And just like doing these the open mic, but it's gonna be on to a different kind of new theme. Like, YouTube's not the new theme. Like, that's continued on as going forward. But when I say the new theme, where it'd be more interactive theme, where we can have sometimes live shows where people can put their comments in, and we'll have interactions where people can, like I say, can be guests on it. It's endless of what we can do, the possibilities.
Part of it is, I just want to say that part of it is a bit selfish as far as far as the technical things go, because I think everybody knows that there's a lot of technical issues with Twitter Spaces, and there's so much time and effort that I basically wasted when I put together the audio segments. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that doesn't necessarily that kind of shouldn't be needed, because I'm basically cleaning up all of the shitty audio that sometimes Twitter Spaces results in, right? And definitely, if we went forward with the Skype, it's a lot less headaches with audio and video, and I wouldn't have to spend nearly as much time like massaging the segments afterwards, because it's a shitload of work sometimes to fix up some of those segments.
Oh yeah, like I remember some guests that I had on, and it glitched out, and then they lost connection, and then they had come back on. Then they almost the guest would almost forget what kind of where did they leave off, or what the conversation was, and yeah, it must have been hard, Neil, sometimes trying to blend that conversation back into where it needs to go, into the content.
Well, there's lots of times where somebody would say something really good. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like, Patricia would be on and her audio would cut out, and I would be forced to cut out like huge swaths of audio just because the audio was just like unlistenable, right? So you'd be forced to cut it, and then you're like, and it makes it really hard. So that's one part of it, for sure, is the technical part of it. But there's other sides of it too, and I mean, you can talk about that too. But the one example I was going to give, and I've given it before with our friend Paul over at BC Disability Caucus. He was always on my case about behind the scenes saying, like, can't you and Brent control your people? He kind of has the opinion, like, if you're not advocating for CRPD, you're not don't bother advocating. Like, there's only one way to advocate, and that's for disability rights through the CRPD kind of thing. And he would always say, well, like, can you please control your people, kind of thing. And I just want to make clear that I mean, for sure, Brent, and for sure me, like we've never been about controlling people. Like we're not a union. Everybody's free to speak their own mind and have their own ways of delivering advocacy. Like Brent's got his own style for delivering advocacy. I've got my own style for delivering advocacy. Dan has got his own style for delivering advocacy, and they're all valid and they're all right. You know, there's no unless you're deliberately disparaging somebody or like deliberately throwing them under the bus or something like that, right? They're all everybody's advocacy is 100% worth it, right? And so we're all sitting here as advocates. We're all trying our very best, and far be it from anybody to say nobody should be saying, you know, get your people together, Neil, or get your people together, Brent. It's not about that. We're all individuals. We're all doing our best. We all got our own little agendas of what we think is important. And far be it from me to say, you know, Dan, you shouldn't do that, or Patricia, you shouldn't do that, or Joseph, you shouldn't be saying that, or whatever, right? We all have our own different ways of doing things. So, like, I'm not going to sit there and say you can't do this or you can't do that, and I don't think Brent's going to do that either, right? I think that's important to say as well.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. You got that one 100% bang on there, Neo. And I know Evil Flightless Birdie, you had your hand up there.
Well, going back to the importance of YouTube is that translations. Now, it's not always obvious, right? But YouTube does allow for captions, and it allows for, you know, the system to eventually populate this in other languages as well. And it was such a strong comment, especially that I heard when other people were coming in with other languages, right? Just because I can understand them doesn't mean, you know, and they were asking, hey, how can you guys work on bringing this into our language so that we can also partake too? And YouTube offers, like, instead of having to, like, not, you know, because you miss so much when you're in Twitter Spaces, right, Brent? When people make a comment and they want to partake, you know, even in like in different ways, because not everybody communicates verbally. And even me speaking now, I forgot to say, hey, this is Eva Flightless Birdie speaking. You know, like, you know, me as a human, I'm not practiced enough to be doing that. But, you know, and even though it's something that we work on as individuals, right, there are a lot of strengths in what Neil and you, Brent, have been doing on YouTube, right?
Yeah, and the closed captioning thing is an automatic thing with YouTube too. It's like I don't have to do anything, and that's the other thing. Like I was saying before, is like there was so much massaging and jumping through hoops when it comes to Twitter Spaces. Like you're always making excuses for, oh, Twitter Space did this, you know, and you're always like the guests are always like quitting their call or whatever, and I just don't think there'll be as much making excuses for YouTube, and there's very little work that I would need to do behind the scenes. Like it's all kind of taken care of for me. And again, like there's when it comes time to preparing the segments afterwards, it'll already be done more or less with a bow tied on it, and it'll be way less work for me after the fact, right? So that's part of the thing as well.
And the other thing to remind, because I know, Brent, you mentioned it earlier, but it kind of got glazed over, is that the clarity that you will be available to DM, and people should reach out to you when they feel the need, right? Like you have said over and over again, to direct message you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's you know, when a segment or like an announcement comes up for the direction that when, you know, there's going to be a guest coming up, to definitely like a direct message if you're kind of curious, if you didn't see Neil's posting or my posting, yeah, like reach out to me, stay in communication, and I'll keep you in the loop, because that's what it's about, right? And when Neil does a posting, when I advise him when there's a guest coming up, he will post it out, and then yeah, all you have to do is go right to how it's posted, and you'll see it.